One down and one in jeopardy. Polyfest, the largest Pacific dance festival due to kick off next week, is at risk after Auckland Council pulled the pin on the Pasifika festival because of concerns around Covid-19. Polyfest is a cultural event for schools that attracts more than 100,000 visitors over 4 days every year. It's due to start in Auckland on Wednesday. The decision's already been made to cancel the Pacifica festival at Western Springs this weekend because of worries that the virus could be transmitted back to the islands, like last year's devastating measles outbreak. That's even though the risk is very low. Mayor Phil Goff says it was a tough call, but the right one.
It is an enormous decision, and it's one that we got to reluctantly and regretfully, but one that we felt that we had to make. The key change was not that the health department's advice has changed. It hasn't. They're saying that large events can still occur because coronavirus in Auckland and in New Zealand is still constrained, and there is no evidence yet of it spreading person to person outside of a family situation. What has changed is that we know that some hundreds of people are coming to Pasifika from the Pacific Islands. While the risk of them contracting COVID-19 is low, should they do that and carry it back to the islands, it's very clear that the impact on the islands would be disastrous. They've seen that before, back in 1918, with the massive loss of life with the influenza epidemic of that year. We saw it last year with 82 lives being lost, mainly children in Samoa. And why we got to the position we did was, we just didn't think we could take that risk with the enormous impact it would have on our Pacific neighbours. What will it cost? Well, there will be a cost. I haven't got the specifics of the cost from ATED yet, but that cost does not outweigh the health and safety and well-being considerations that led us to this decision.
Understand the reasoning behind it. In terms of the costs, though, what would you normally provide? What, security, barriers, the park? What else? What kind of expenses would be attached to it?
Oh, ATED provides all the setup and, obviously the provision of the park itself and all of the services that are available there. So a big effort that has gone into organising that and, the tragedy.
So tens of thousands of dollars?
I think it probably would be. I don't have the specific figure to hand, but it is very likely in that vicinity.
So why leave the decision until today?
Well, right up till the last few days, we've been very much relying, as we ought, on the Ministry of Health advice, and I believe they're doing a very competent job. They're saying, well, so far, with good management and good luck in Auckland, we have constrained the number of cases to 5. There have been no new cases reported in the last 4 days or so, and it is still low risk to organise a mass gathering of this sort. And I've relied on that advice, and properly so. But I think the other factor that you can't expect the Ministry of Health to take into the equation is, even if it's low risk, what the potential impact would be if that was to involve a case of transmission back to the Pacific, which doesn't have the health systems, which doesn't have the resources that we have to properly constrain and deal with an outbreak of the infection.
What about other events, though? So you've got the Arts Festival coming, there's the Avondale Markets, that attracts a lot of people. We have a lot of concerts in Auckland. What could be next to go?
Well, I think that depends on circumstances. I've been looking very closely at the figures in places like Italy and France and Spain. And, Italy's gone in the space of 2 weeks from 0 to 12,500 cases. France to, well over 2,000 cases. And Germany, almost 2,000 cases. Once the COVID-19 takes grip in a community, then it's very hard to stop it spreading. If we were to get to that point, and we're all working and praying that it doesn't, but if it were to get into that to that point, then I think you'd have a widespread cancellation of events right across the board. And we're talking there, about everything from the March the 15th commemoration, which occurs on Sunday, to Polyfest, which is just in the middle of next week, to the rugby, and we've got a rugby and rugby league double-header match at Eden Park that I was planning to go to in a couple of weeks' time. A serious deterioration or a significant deterioration in the spread of the virus would, I think, lead to that cancellation. And we've seen that already with Piha cancelling its surf lifesaving. Probably not a hugely high-risk area, but people erring on the side of caution. The cancellation of the Grand Prix in Australia is in the same category.
So is Polyfest safe for now?
I'm seeking advice on that. If Polyfest does involve groups coming from outside of the country from the
Exactly,
Pacific,
so how is it different from Pasifika?
Then I think we will be talking very soon to the organisers about the appropriateness of that event going forward. I'm simply, before I make that decision, or before Council makes that decision, I want to confer further with government agencies, the health authorities. I want to talk to the organisers. I want to make sure that we have all of the facts and that we're making the decision on a sound, rational basis.
So are you talking to those festival organisers right now, Polyfest?
We are getting in touch with them as we speak, and it's important that we do so. So
potentially that is in jeopardy?
Potentially it is, yes.
When will you make a final decision on that?
That decision needs to be made probably today or at the latest over the weekend. And
how many people is that going to affect, do you know?
Well, we've got 60,000 that would have come to Pasifika. The number for Polyfest is even larger, probably 90 to 100,000. And the tragedy for Pasifika is this time last year, we cancelled it because of the mosque attacks and on the advice of the police. This year, we're cancelling it on advice of the risk to the wider Pacific region. Polyfest was cut short by 1 day last year. These are great events. They're our celebration of the vibrancy and the strength of the Pacifica community and our multiculturalism. So we don't take the step lightly. But in the end, we do have to err on the side of caution. In the end, we've got to put health and safety first, and that's what we'll be doing.
Given the logic you have applied when you're cancelling Pasifika, that same logic applies to Polyfest, does it not? So why not just call it now and cancel it?
Because I haven't had the chance to speak with the organisers of Polyfest about that, and it would be utterly inappropriate for me to make a unilateral decision without first fully consulting with them and having further information that I need from government agencies.
Will you be suggesting to them that it's in the best interests of everybody that it's cancelled?
Well, I want to listen to the advice and make my suggestions arising out of the information that is provided to me. That's quite important. Look, I think people have been incredibly sympathetic about why we've had to cancel Pasifika, but people would very quickly take an opposite view if they thought that we were doing these things without fully thinking through all of the consequences and determining the level of risk that the community might or might not be prepared to take.
And that's Auckland Mayor Phil Goff.